All right, should we start? It is 3 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
So moved. But I thought we could move maybe safety and security up front since we have Jack and he's the representative from CDD. Maybe we don't have to keep him on the whole time.
Yep, we'll move that up to the top of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, then let's start with that. Hi, Jack.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, thanks for joining.
I apologize. There's a lot of background noise. The house is being painted right now. We got compressors going and stuff like that. So things are happening. All right. So what can I do for you guys?
Well, I think we had this on the agenda, and I guess probably probably this is something that we talked about in previous meetings about what is the plan for security, sheriff, that type of stuff. I know the CDD is the one that usually has the contract, but I know Lauren and I talked about this, and we talked about various stuff about how can we improve security in the community. And I thought it would be best if we didn't do it in a vacuum, just as Kanoa, because we talked about it. And then the CJC certainly wants to get on that and that type of thing. So I think we should talk about it as a group, which usually doesn't happen. So.
Okay, well, we've been talking about the sheriff and the deputies an awful lot the last couple of months. In fact, I met with Angel yesterday, Angel Montagnard, executive director, about this. We currently have 10 shifts per week, 40 hours per week of deputies, plus the evening Friday night shift with the downtown. We're kind of dissatisfied because we're not getting complete police reports, nor are we getting the action we really want. It seems like this is posted as a volunteer type thing, extra duty thing. So they're signing up for whatever hours they feel like serving, and they don't really service the needs of our community. For example, the shifts I looked at, I only had half of them come in. 2/3 of them were from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock in the morning, which was just an absolute waste of time. So we are looking, number one, at moving the shifts back from 8 to 12. And then the evening shifts, that seems to be where we have the biggest problem with speeding and stuff. And we're moving that back from 2 to 6. So those are some of the things we're looking at. We're also looking at the contract we have with them. Actually, it's not a contract. We give them 40 hours of work a week that we want to get them to do. And we're kind of like looking back at, we're actually proposing to Florida Highway Patrol, Orange County, and Osceola County to see if they'd be willing to take over the sheriff's details. And the first thing we want to do is go back to a regular one-type deputy, something like Jerry Wilder was here, so he knew the area, and keep him here for 5 8-hour shifts, probably a Saturday shift and maybe Tuesday through Friday, something like that. If they're not interested in doing that, then we would do 40-hour shifts, 4 10-hour shifts. But we need to specify who we want in here, and that's been a problem. I'll give you an example. I had one deputy take 7 shifts in Celebration, and of all those shifts, he wrote no citations and 36 written warnings, which was an absolute waste of time as far as I'm concerned. Some of them don't write anything at all. So we've told the sheriff, unless we get a complete detailed report, we're not going to pay anymore. We're also talking with the county right now as far as the county attorney is supposed to be coming out with a directive as far as e-bikes and e-scooters on the sidewalks, and we're very concerned about that. There's just a proliferation of that and a dangerous situation occurring. So we're waiting until that comes out. Orange County has already got a pamphlet that tells what's allowed, and basically our feeling is that you can't have anybody on the sidewalk unless it's human powered. You can have an e-bike, but you got to be powering it through by pedaling. So we're looking at those areas there. The downtown, we currently have people at, the 4-hour shift is actually from 9 to 1 o'clock in the morning. I think is really too late. I would prefer to schedule him from 7 to 11.
It's from 9 until what in the morning? Sorry.
1 o'clock.
Okay.
I think that's way too late. I think it needs to be 7 through 11. So I'd be asking you if you felt that, and Mike Nunes probably knew best about that area. So, you get any questions for me? What we're trying to do.
Now, you were saying when you and I'm sure Mike and everybody else probably. I mean, Mike obviously knows a little bit more, but Lauren and Jacob, I think they had some run-ins with some people downtown and that kind of stuff also. So the downtown thing I think sounds pretty important too. But is there like something that they check in? Is there what is the they just do what like they just do what they want, or can we? Back in the day we used to remember they used to even get the radar gun from town hall back in the day. But is there some way they could check in with a business or something, or have them stop in at certain places?
I think I'd like for the evenings, the weekend stuff. Yeah, I'd like to have them make a visible presence in all the businesses. You made me lose my train of thought now.
Checking in and maybe
checking in.
Yeah.
Let's go back to checking in. When Cliff Akey left, we lost a great resource because Cliff is very detailed as far as telling these guys where they need to be and what they need to be doing. And basically, since he left, all we've done is pass out shifts, and they're on their own. They don't have to check in. All they have to do is say they've been here and done their 4 hours. So it's not been a very efficient operation. We're going to try and clean that up.
Okay. So is it possible that, Island Village is one area, like somehow we could say, because we want them, obviously, I mean, I'm sure, Jared is, we want to make sure they cover the residents type thing, but make sure they get from one end of town. Is it possible that we could say, check in with the business in Island Village and check in with the business, downtown, so that we know that they're there? Because remember, back in the day, before we had park monitors, they had to do something at even Lakeside Park. I think they had to open up the key or do something weird. There's stuff we had back in the day also. So
well, there's a sheriff's office or room in Jones' room. But if you go in there, you're going to find it's full of chairs and everything else. It's not a hospital thing to be in.
Yeah.
We need to designate to them what we want them to do, being a little more specific.
Would we have a dedicated person? Would it be the same person all the time, or the same group of people?
Well, that's what we'd like to do. Back in 2017, the Osceola County basically canceled the contract, which called for 5 days a week of 8-hour shifts. Okay, and the attorney Holman said that we're not going to tell you the schedule, and you can't tell us what you want them to do. So that did us basically no good at all. So we went to 10 4-hour shifts. I would like to go back to a same deputy type thing. And the reason for that is back in 2017, we were paying $94,000 a year for sheriff's detectives, and that escalated up to 4% per year to $121,000. You divide that out, and it works like $61 an hour. We are currently paying the shift deputies $74 an hour. So we're getting ripped off, and we're not getting the service we need. So
I only ask that because we do have a way with the security system to have them check in at each buildings, and then it logs it in the system. So we have a way for them to tap in whatever facility we want, whether that's Lakeside, Heritage, Island Village. So that's an option.
Okay, well, let me get with you about that, because like I said, we just met yesterday about going out to proposing this type of contract to the sheriff, the various sheriffs, Osceola, Kissimmee, and Orange counties. So, yeah, it's an opportunity for us to sit down and tell them exactly what we want. I even asked Cliff if he'd be willing to schedule these sheriffs for us, and he said, absolutely not. So,
I have a couple questions and a comment. The comment that I have is I understand why there's an importance to have them check in, because there were numerous times that there was an incident downtown, and I said, well, don't we have that officer that's supposed to be there on weekends? And they said, oh, yeah, they're supposed to be there, but absolutely no one could find them. So
I'm sorry, you blanked out. You absolutely know what?
There no one could find them. So, I mean, they said that they were there, but like literally nobody could find the officers anywhere, despite them saying that, yeah, we have someone assigned.
I agree
to the downtown detail.
And to that to that, Cliff used to go around and find the details and find out where they were and said, you need to not be parked here. You need to be out on the street and doing stuff. We need to do that. Absolutely should do that.
So maybe we could work
Jack,
with
do you think the
you
sheriff's
since you
even
have the
going to be willing to
contract.
do that, though?
Well, if he's not, we'll talk to one of the other two departments and see if they're willing to do it. But we need to get somebody in here that's willing to do the work. To give you an example, we get detail reports all the time. I've only gotten 2 detail reports for Friday nights out of the last month. We're missing a bunch of detail reports. And of course, I don't expect them to write parking tickets or anything like that, but to be there. And there's a lot of activity that we kind of got mad at the sheriff the other day, Captain Calvis. He said, and we said, we told you to have your deputies trespass this person off the promenade. And he said, oh, the deputy said we can't do it. We don't have the ability to do that. So it's a learning process for these deputies to understand that they can trespass and we expect them to.
I guess if you had somebody who was more often, that would help, I guess, or hire, like you said, Kissimmee or so. I guess for me is the reason why I figured it'd be good to have you on is maybe there's a relationship that has to be between you, Angel, and Jacob and Lauren. So so we can kind of come to again, like Jared said, the tapping, certain areas and that kind of stuff. If there's some sort of precipitation, where you want us to basically, there's events, but there's other things, and maybe there's some way we could help in that through the CJC.
I agree, and part of the contract proposal we gave them is we would give them notice of where we wanted them to concentrate their service 4 weeks in advance.
Right.
They could be able to do something. So, yeah, I'd really welcome your inputs on stuff like that.
I have one more question and one comment. My question is, you mentioned Orlando, though. I know that Highway Patrol has jurisdiction anywhere in Florida, and Kissimmee could do arrest power, but could an Orlando officer have arrest power in Osceola County?
We asked that question, and they do have the ability.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they have the ability. And I got to tell you, I've been monitoring. You probably don't see that much, but all the radar signs I've been monitoring for the last couple of months. We had one person on Celebration Boulevard do 90 miles an hour. Okay, and that's not unusual. You had somebody on Golf Park at 74 miles an hour.
Yeah, that
so
I believe.
we need to be visible and get these people thrown in jail, locked up for stuff like this. So it's something we're really getting hot and heavy on.
The only concern that I agree with all this. I think it's that we need to push on it. The piece where I come back to that where having a consistent person or a group is the other facet of this is relaying to the existing tax paid deputies that are supposed to be in the area. Because what I don't want, one of the issues that we kind of had with Jerry all the time was Jerry was it, and that's all we had.
Well,
and so
let's talk about Jerry, okay? Jerry did a lot of work at 7-Eleven and in the 851 building, okay? And he was also found at Lakeside, but guess what? He was not a Crow resource. He was a CDD resource, and he wasn't getting out doing his job. And I found out that Jerry usually wrote maybe 2 tickets a month. I'm getting guys who are writing 16 tickets a day. So I want some production. Well,
it was the same thing. The sheriff department took him away from what he was supposed to do anyway. So it wasn't really, I was on the CDD when we canceled the contract. So, it wasn't, he evolved into something else. So.
Oh,
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Marco, we have to ask you to step off because Charles has joined as a CJC member and we now have quorum with CROA. So we have to ask you to hang up the call, Marco.
Will do. Thank you so much, sir. Privilege.
Thank you, Marco.
Hi, Marco.
Hi, Marco.
See you. Bye.
I have one more comment. Next time you talk to the sheriff's office too, they had approached us a while back they said that they're overcrowded and they said that they'd like to have office space downtown, kind of almost to act as a substation. And we offered them free space and we never heard from them again.
Sure.
I think having an additional presence of cars coming in and out, police cars would be huge for the town.
no question. Now, currently they park the 2 community service vehicles over in Lakeside, but there's a if you want to call it a closet over in Lakeside that's actually filled up with tables and chairs. That was dedicated to the sheriff's department at one time. It needs to be cleaned out so they can use that. The other thing is that Georgetown had actually offered them space to park their cars and other stuff, and jury turned them down. So
Wow.
we can get together and do something like that. And we'd actually,
We can find space if they want to be here at that level.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Well-
know that that closet does exist, and it is a closet that does have lots of tables and chairs. There is about one folding table with a chair that does remain accessible with nothing ever stacked on it for the sheriff log. But it's not like a workable office. It's more of you could walk in, sign a log and leave, but
Right. I mean, we
We
can build
can-
them a whole
we can get 'em.
substation if they'll come every day.
Exactly. Having the presence would be huge.
Right. Well, we talked about 851 building that's been an offer before. We talked about it at the 690 building. And remember, they were going to build the substation in public. They just didn't do it. So
we were
it
going to
changes.
build something upstairs, a CDD building for a sheriff, and that all fell apart. It's something we can look at, we need to do.
So yeah, sorry. I would say one more thing, Jared, that Jack mentioned. He's talking about getting the scooters off and that kind of stuff. One thing that again, this is for the group CJC and the CDD, is and this is coming from the Kanoa side. I haven't brought this up to Jared and Charles and Eric yet, but one thing that we discussed on our side was we have an issue with ice cream trucks. And I know it sounds funny, but we have literally the ice cream truck that parked in front of the ice cream store. You know what I mean? So it sounds like we need a community, a couple of county ordinances that are coming out of celebration that maybe all 3 groups, CROA, Kanoa, maybe CJC, and CDD ask the county for as a group to get stuff done.
Yeah, I agree with you. We had an ice cream truck to North Village the other day, just spent the entire time bringing his music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I agree. I didn't think about the downtown, but Mike, don't you own that downtown though? That's your street. You're muted.
You're muted. It was in Island Village in front of the new ice cream place in Island Village. And they did park in front of, because it's a county road, he did kick them out of, I think Lawrence, spoke to somebody downtown, but they can park in front of SunTrust or Truist. I saw them parking there. That's county road. So I think they know they can't, well, who knows if they know that, but remember, we have new businesses that are also on county roads. And they literally parked in front of the ice cream place in Island Village.
Okay, well, I've asked Jan, our legal, Jan Stevens, our legal
Yeah.
person. We were approved a community overlay that allowed the CDD to determine who can park on our streets.
Right.
And that'd be something that all we have to do is tell them what we want to do, and we can make that happen. I think I'll talk to Jan about that, because I also mentioned about putting, getting rid of some of these box trucks and semis that are parking on our streets
Right.
overnight.
I'm sure Lauren has lots of calls for that kind of stuff too. So maybe if we try to move this along, I know we have a time frame, is that maybe Lauren, should she be talking to Angel about this or talking to you, or how do we get this going between groups?
Either one, me or Angel.
Yeah.
It's probably closer to it because she gets to talk to Jan right away, and
Okay.
I would be spending money if I talked to Jan.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that instead of us doing it, board members, better staff do this and try to get this accomplished.
Much better
Yeah.
choice for staff. And
Yeah.
Eric, I was going to go back to one of your statements. You talked about the deputies coming into celebration. Don't count on it. Okay.
Right.
Zone 21 actually covers all of West 192, all the hotels, all the Old Town, all the other junk that you have there. So to see one of these guys in celebration, it'd be a rarity. Okay. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack.
I'll reach out to Angel.
okay. Is that all you have for me? Can I say goodbye? Or you have any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, guys. You guys have a great meeting, okay?
Thank you.
Jack.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, moving on our agenda, approval for the meeting minutes from February 27th. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
All right.
Any discussion? All in favor?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, we'll
Abstain.
move on. That,
House is abstaining.
okay. That's through chat.
No,
I just at the very end.
Appointment of treasurer. With Andrew leaving, we have the opening of a treasurer. I would nominate Lee Moore for that, if you would accept that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Water tower.
Okay, I'll take this one. So water tower repair came in on time, 6,000 under budget. For a total invoice of $80,300, sorry. Your current CJC reserve fund balance is $45,000, so obviously not enough to cover the cost of that expenditure. However, if you look at the CROA reserve study, it fully funds the water tower repair and painting at $55,000 and $35,000. So our recommendation is that the CROA reserve funds that have been set aside for the water tower work be moved into the CJC reserve fund to then accomplish this payment. And moving forward, we will adjust the reserve contributions each year during the budget process. So it's not funded out of the CROA reserves, it's funded out of the CJC reserves.
So we're making up approximately 50% of the balance due by moving money that's already dedicated for this
Yes,
from CROA reserve funds to CJC.
correct.
Okay.
So our recommendation is that this board request the CROA board make that that monetary change, and then we can put it on the CROA workshop for next week for approval,
For approval to transfer and then it'll
and
get
then we
paid.
can pay.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that or is that just a general agreement?
I would request a motion.
So I'll motion that we do that.
Can you clarify it a little bit? I'm still a little confused.
The money for the water tower, the reserve money for the water tower has been accruing in CROA's reserve fund. So the money for this exists. It just hasn't been going to the CJC account. It's been going into the CROA reserve fund. And there's line items in this report for water tower repairs, one at 35 and one at
The water tower repairs 55 and water tower paints 35.
paint at 35 and repairs at 55. So the money exists. It's just been put in under CROA reserves and been funded there. So we just need to take it out of CROA and put it in CJC.
Is the motion to just take this portion out to pay for this reserve, or is it to permanently move all the money, or maybe I didn't
To
understand
permanently
it.
move all the money from there into
Okay.
CJC and future allocations to just go directly to CJC.
Where it should be, I guess. right,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So this seems to be accounting. This is just basically an accounting procedural thing. I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The pulley system.
Pulley system is up and ready to go. Christian's team put it together. We do have the banner dimensions for everybody. Christian sent me an email with that. It's 20 feet by 10 feet with a 2-inch slot, 2.5-inch slot for the poles to go through. And preferably you'll have some holes in it for the wind to go through. They tested putting up one without holes in it on a very windy day, and it was a little hairy. So that's ready to go and move forward, and he's working on the lights right now with a vendor. So those should be up and running soon.
Is it a 1-point attachment with the pulley or a 2-point?
2 points.
Okay.
Top and bottom, right?
Yeah.
What's our
it's-
next event? Do we have any banners sitting around for any events?
We have what's the next event that we have that would be banner? It would be 4th of
Fourth of
July.
July, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What is it? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
4th of July.
Oh, okay. You're on mute, Mike. I know. I see you're trying to talk.
It said that the farmer's market banner too, you had the banner that said farmer's market every Sunday.
Yes, we used to put the banner up every week too.
So we,
No, I think we'll need to order a new one.
The former one we had was smaller.
Mhm.
So we can order a new one of those and try it out?
Mhm.
Okay.
These are
And what's
larger
the
banners
process
now.
for the farmer's market banner? It goes up on a Saturday, goes up on a Friday, and comes back down Monday, or what's
The
the?
maintenance team would put it up on Friday and it would come down on Monday.
Okay.
so you'll do that one as a test?
Yes, sir.
They have to build it. They have to make it though, I guess, before.
Yeah,
4th of
because it's
July,
different
right, so-
dimensions, you said?
The
Yeah.
different dimension,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get that, Nikki's team will get that ordered and then we'll test it out.
We think that'll happen this month, April?
Yeah.
Okay.
That should be easy.
We'll start the order process. Once it arrives, we can put it into effect that Friday.
And we'll send an update.
And I would definitely make a standard size and then holes, because you're definitely gonna need it for the wind, 100%. So there's gonna need to be several, whatever, I don't know what it is, but the old ones had it for sure. So,
Same with the 4th of July one. That'll need to be new as well, or?
I think
Yes,
they'll all probably need to be remade.
they all,
Yeah.
yeah, they were all smaller because we
Oh,
were
okay.
putting,
Let's test with the one in case we need more
Right,
wind holes. or-
right,
Yeah.
yeah, something different, yeah, for sure.
When do
Any
you
more
get-
discussion on the water tower?
Yeah. Yeah, do any of that? Well, never mind. I was going to say to CCS and grants or any, never mind. I guess none of that is contemplated for any of
so
this.
the CCS funding can be used for the grant funding can be used for advertising. So when it's time to order the 4th of July banner, that could be one of those things that comes out of the grant funding.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just have to make sure the Experience Kissimmee logo is somewhere in it.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Can you put together a list of the potential opportunities of those things?
Yes, all our CCS events and CRO events that are not resident only, and then I'll get with Mike on his events.
Right, yep, okay, great. Then we have a schedule for the year and then it's just known.
Right.
Anything else on the water tower?
No.
Okay, moving to the CJC bylaws. What was this?
So there were some discussions about amending the bylaws at the last meeting, and then we kind of ran out of time and you wanted to kick it down for further discussion this time. I know Kanoa had a couple of items that they wanted to bring up as discussion for amendments.
I think we only had one major one, and that was more of a technical issue. The way the Kanoa bylaws are written, we have the right to hire our own management company if we were to so choose to do so someday. We're not looking to do that. I'm just saying we have the right. However, the language is a little muddy because it says that CJC has to approve whichever management company we pick. We'd like that changed because we don't see any point in having to have the CJC's approval for Kanoa's management, especially when we already have the right to hire our own management per the contracts.
That's the same with CROA too. That rule exists the same on both sides. I see what you're saying. CROA
Yeah,
can't
CROA-
choose management companies without CJC approval.
Yeah, and if Crowe wants to also change the bylaws on their end for the same reason, that's their prerogative, but we'd like it changed on our end because we are a separate entity.
Sure. Eric, you were gonna say something?
No, I was just going to say, so if we were to completely eliminate it, does there exist the situation that there is then no, I guess, who gets CJC as a management company if both decide to part ways? So is there the universe where CJC would have its own for some silly reason? Or I guess that's the only situation that I'm trying to figure out.
There is a
imagine-
world where you could have 3 management companies, a Kanoa management company, a CJC management company, and a CROA management company. And based on the existing staff at town hall and how they're funded. Half of your staff would be under the CJC management company. The other half of the staff would be under the CROA management company. And then Kanoa currently does not have any dedicated staff to them, so they would have no staff and would be more of a portfolio client.
All the insurance would still go. So how does insurance, we all still
It-
maintain our own CROA, Kanoa, and then CJC. That's still, and then
It
the
could
shared
still
services
funnel,
would be.
it could still funnel through CJC, because you're still set up that way. It'd be a little silly because you'd have three entities running around in the same place trying to do the same things.
This is not something that we're discussing doing. It's just, we noticed the language is extremely muddied. And obviously CJC would probably maintain the management company picked by CROA anyway, especially with CROA having 3 and 5 seats on the CJC board.
Yeah, it's true.
Is this something that we need?
Do you want me to kick this to a legal?
That's what I was gonna say, because if the language is muddy, just to get more definition there.
Yep.
And
I
maybe,
guess I will say,
go ahead.
yeah, I'll sorry, Jared. I would say that I'm supporting. I mean, I think it makes sense to clear up the language, but I think getting the lawyer to clear up the language for us is fine. And I think even if we needed to put some sort of a contingency in there to avoid something silly, is that I don't know. We'll let them figure out the whole, if a 3 management company scenario would ever exist, which hopefully it would never. But I mean, I think it's fair to Kanoa to, if their documents are in conflicting with CJC, we need to get that sorted out.
Yeah.
I think the only way that you would
For all of us.
ever have a 3, I think the only way you'd ever have a 3 management situation is if one CJC member who represents CROA went rogue and voted against the entire CROA board. I mean, the CROA board is going to have control over the CJC as well. So I can't imagine.
Never say never, Mike.
It could happen, I
Sure.
guess, but
I voted
just
against the
saying.
entire Crow board for the last management vote, so.
Yeah, so I think to me it's one of those pieces where even if it's something, and Mike, I agree with you. I think you're right. If they were to put in, it would default to the majority seat hole. I don't know what the hell, but kick it to the lawyer. But and see how they would word it.
The reason this is more of a concern is because of what happened with the departure of CCMC and Graham Manor's being brought in. It has nothing to do with Graham Manor's performance or anything, but the entire thing was done without any input at all from Kanoa. I mean, it literally was done with no input from Kanoa. We were told, oh, by the way, this is your new management company. And we don't want that to happen again. We don't want to be surprised. We don't want to be just handed, this is who's managing you now, like it or not. So we just like that language cleared up so that if something happens down the road, we're protected.
Maybe
I
it's
support that.
something as
Yeah,
simple
I support
as-
that.
Maybe it's something as simple as cleaning up the language so it's not conflicting between the governing documents and putting in a provision of if one entity desires to look to change management companies, they need to provide written notice to all other entities or something like that.
Yeah, I like that.
So I have a general question, and feel free to bring up point of order. Wouldn't potentially CJC just dissolve at that point potentially, or that would be a whole complication? Because I know there's I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
I would have to look at the governing documents for CJC in terms of dissolution of how CJC would or be
So that's the
dissolved.
other thing. Like maybe in that provision, maybe it just dissolves. But anyway, never mind. Disregard. I'm just ignore me.
No, it's
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because we talked about it, but I think it was set up the way is that there's always an interest in the residents or let's forget the number of votes on CJC, who has more or whatever, but there's an interest in the residents on the businesses, that the businesses are important to the residents in some way, maybe for ARC or for making it look nice. Remember, there's some condos that are part of the businesses in a way. So I think that there's always been some relationship, notwithstanding how many votes somebody has, because that was done a little bit later on. But I think Disney, or if you think about it, probably didn't want to completely separate because they wanted to make sure that businesses were part of at least the aesthetics, right? ARC or covenants, two important parts, so I don't know. It's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, CJC is the checks and balances of
Right.
all the other things, and so
Right,
it
right.
exists for that purpose, just of.
Yeah,
But do we need
Just
it in
to being able to
2025
say.
when Disney's gone? I don't know. So anyway.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, this is more of a just to protect ourselves down the line. I mean, what if, Kroger wanted to make a management change, but Kanoa was perfectly content with the services that we were being offered and didn't want to make a change. It's more for that type of thing.
We'll take it to legal.
Yeah, we'll get an opinion on that for the next meeting. Cost sharing agreement. Everybody got Lauren's email?
So I forwarded everybody an email with a document. Kanoa
Yep,
members
I saw
do have this document already.
Okay.
We discussed it at one of your meetings. For CROA members, I went through the CJC budget and discussed with the team percentages of time allocation, resource allocation, in terms of time spent on Kanoa versus CJC and CROA. The document that you have in front of you outlays the percentage allocation that we feel is fair in terms of what services Kanoa is receiving in terms of their contribution to CJC. It essentially equates to 15% of the CJC budget, which would mean that CROA would be contributing 85% to the CJC budget.
Discussion.
Did you want to start or?
I've looked at this and I mean, I find this to be fair, but I know that when we were talking without all this backup, I know that you didn't feel 15% was necessarily fair, so.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't really know. I have the same breakdown that you have, and I don't really know that 15% is fair. It's close. The numbers are close to what we were thinking. There's a lot of points that we'd like to make, and the problem is that keep in mind too that when we're negotiating next year, if this number, this 369 number, is something that you think is actually reasonable and fair to Kanoa, then keep in mind that means that we're overpaying you this year by over 150,000. And because of that, we are completely strapped in being able to do marketing efforts on behalf of our businesses that we want to do this year. So keep that in mind when we're discussing numbers for next year, that we've been handcuffed this year. The numbers are close.
The goal is to not, the objective here is to not have to negotiate this every year and to come up with something here that we can put into the bylaws, and there's no need for a negotiation every year. It's an agreed upon fixed percentage with a cap. I know we talked about a cap percentage, not to exceed. So I think that's the objective here, is to come up with something that we don't have to discuss a cost sharing agreement every year. It's something that is fixed.
I would say that is a good idea in a real world. I'm not sure we're there. For instance, let's say we take these numbers that Lauren's talking about, which the 15%, is that right? Is that what it says? I mean, I don't have it in front of me. I know I did look at it, which I think is probably more than what it is. If you look at some of the time spent and all that kind of stuff, and also don't forget the salaries and all that kind of stuff, are salaries based on running a much larger organization where we're, right now, if it is 15%, and I get what you're saying, Jared, if it is 15% all the time, the difference is right now, when we first discussed this, I think it was November, we said we need, it was $531,000 that we gave or something like that in the last budget. And for that money, we wanted a marketing person. We wanted this, that kind of stuff. So we haven't even gotten, to where we are, where we feel like. So I think that this budget that we're talking about now is probably not going to be a 3-year. I mean, it could be that number could be something that can work, but we also have to see, does it work? Because I would say in this time frame when we first spoke, and Eric, and I don't mean to quote Eric every time, we said we're going to do a trial, we're going to have a marketing person, let's see how it goes, and when we come back next year, we'll see how we performed. But I don't think we've done anything to help market the business or do the businesses in that time frame that we've discussed. I mean, we hired somebody left, so we're still not there yet. So as an organization, and we feel like we're a new organization. We'll call us a new organization because we have been under Disney for a long time. So Mike's been on Kanoa for 8 years, and it was 10-minute meetings, and they've never discussed anything like that. All the money went to the CJC, and there was no choice. Unfortunately, that's not where we are now. So if we get to the budget, if we wanted to do what we wanted to do, we're probably in the neighborhood of a 10 or 12% type thing. That probably seems more reasonable now. And I would say this too.
Lee Charles has his hands up.
Yeah, let me just finish this real quickly.
Let him go. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say though that don't forget that we are not growing anymore. So again, the contractual amount right now, and Mike, if you could remind everybody who's new on this, what is the contractual amount and how did that get here?
Well, the contractual amount is based on the number of parcels managed by the management company. So right now, Kanoa is 1.17% of the accounts. Back
how
in
many accounts does Kanoa have? 4,000 something or whatever? I'm sorry.
4,566.
And what does it look like, Lauren? What does it look like it's going to be maxed out at or something like that after Island Village? So right now it's 4,566. Do we know?
Can I jump in real quick? Can I jump in real quick on that? So you're counting the apartments as one individual. So for like Emerson as an example, there are 200, 300 units. Each of those receives a provision of services through the management company. Accurate?
Yes,
but they also pay a fee, a separate fee, a recreational fee that goes to that too. So it's separate.
That's just operational though. That's
correct.
Wear and tear on the facilities.
Correct. So, but staff. So I guess that's the other thing. Well, that was going to be my next point, just around the apartments and what they receive, and if that's all contemplated through some of this, because you've got the new apartments over in Island Village. You have quite a bit of apartments overall that go through staffing, get services through us. Obviously, the rec fee does cover some of that.
No, it's supposed to cover all of it because I was involved in the rec fee. When we raised the rec fee, we said we need more staff at town hall to do their IDs, and we need more staff to do that stuff. So as far as I know, I don't know what other staff they do, but that fee is supposed to be for the usage of going to events, getting their cards, doing that stuff.
But picking up the phone of a staff member. So like when they call, is that, when you've got 1,500 apartment owners or apartment renters and they're calling a staff member that's being paid for, is that part of that as well? That's where I'm also saying, like, if you're counting it as one building versus the 200 units, I don't want to get off track. That's where I'm going.
No, but that is exactly, that's how we bill. We bill per unit, like you bill per unit, but that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
but
to answer your question. Yeah.
Kanoa bills for the parcel of land. Kanoa bills for the individual units.
Right.
So the other thing I'll say in terms of the expansion is, if you look at this document, this does not include the salary and benefits of all of the CJC billed staff. You're missing inspectors, you're missing the front counter staff. And I think those are the main ones that are not contemplated in this document. So we've already pulled out staff that is more dedicated to CROA than Kanoa. And in terms of CROA expansion in Island Village, when you're adding staff that's addressing those facilities and those amenities, those are going to be fully funded out of CROA because those are maintenance staff and Parks and Rec staff. None of those staff are part of CJC funding.
I think Lee's question though is how many total homes and units do you think that you'll have when it's maxed out?
Hazard a guess of approximately 5,000, but I don't know the full number off the top of my head of how many additional homes Matamee's adding. They're
And
adding,
how many
they're
additional
adding 300. Pardon?
how many additional parcels would Kanoa receive funding for? Expected. Is there any land for development?
There's no other Kanoa parcels in Island Village.
Because that's part of what we're saying, that although CROA's revenue can continue to grow, Kanoa's cannot.
But there's no more,
There's no additional there's no additional staffing added at the CJC level
right,
because of that expansion. That staffing would be added to the CROA staff.
there's no additional expense to either party through any expansion.
No, I think we're talking about the reason where we had the contractual amount, both boards, the CJC board unanimously voted for the contractual amount, which is per unit. Now, we're not saying that seems a little low. When we look at that number, that seems low, obviously.
What
So-
contractual amount are you talking about?
The percentage. So we've called it the default amount, but the contractual amount is build the percentage of units, right? So
So you're talking
we're
about
only-
the 1.17%?
Yeah, we're only 1.17%, but that is the contractual. That is, both boards agreed to that as a default amount. That is the contractual amount. But let's say we're doing more services. Let's say that is just for billing. So for us, what do we get as Kanoa? We have a dedicated ARC covenants person. I'm not really sure we do, because our person is no longer there, I guess, right? Is it Chris no longer there? So I don't know. Do we have a dedicated person anymore? I know we're paying for one. And then we have
Inspectors are still doing it.
Yeah, but I don't think you're right. So my question is the percentage that you did, I thought was a decent start. I don't think it's that much in terms of us. Now, I think that you're spending a lot more time on us because of we're a new business, but I think that we want whatever money we have. And by the way, just to let you know, whether it's 200,000, 300, 500, 600, 800,000, whatever we have is going back into the community. So for instance, in our Kanoa meeting, we have $5,000 that we're asking to go in for events. We want to make sure our money goes back into the community, goes right back to staff, goes back to events, and goes back in. The more money we have.
So if you don't agree with the 15%, what is your alternative number?
That was gonna be my question as well. What do you think is, if this isn't it, what is it?
The first number we were looking at was in the 10 to 12% range. 12% range would put us at 295. We could go to 3, which is almost 13%. And we think that that's more reasonable.
Is that something you would agree to as a bylaws change, a 13%?
I don't know that we want to put that, we want to do a bylaw change right now, because we're still in that whole test phase that we talked about. Let's do this for a year. Let's see if there's a difference in the amount of promotion that's done on behalf of businesses.
That's a portion of this, though. We're talking about insurance and IT support and all these other things that are what this cost is, what the value of this cost is. I know you're focused on the marketing thing, and I agree that's an important part, because that's a tangible thing that you can show to your members. But we have to look at the overall operation of the community and everything else that goes into that.
We took a close look at it, and things like this, let's keep in mind, and I don't know what everyone's salaries are, so this is just an example, but let's just say the first 2 line items, executive director and general manager, what if those percentages in dollar amounts is $75,000, $100,000? could we hire our own manager that would work for us on behalf of the businesses 100% of the time for that price or less than what we're paying the percentages? Because again, all these numbers, salaries, everything was done without the involvement of Kanoa. These were salaries determined by CROA and based on job descriptions that were for primarily for CROA responsibilities. Go back and look at the RFPs for when Grand Manners got the job. Kanoa was not even mentioned in there. So obviously the entire salary structure and positions were established based on work being performed on behalf of CROA, not Kanoa. So that's why I say 25% of time, I don't know that that's an accurate number, and I don't know that it will be that once we get past all this newness because of TCC leaving. So yes, we did think about this, and we thought about the staff and realistically how much time is probably spent on behalf of Kanoa.
Yeah, if it's a full-time staff member on behalf of Kanoa for inspections, I mean, I know we're paying for somebody, but there's no way somebody's doing full-time on the base of Kanoa. In fact, if we hired the staff to do what we needed to do, we'd have a marketing person, we'd have a salesperson, and we do it for less than that, and insurance and everything else. We did look at that. We looked, but we do want to do our fair share. But at the end of the day is, if you take something, so let's use a round number. What did you say, 298, Mike? I didn't really get that, or whatever it was.
Yeah,
295.
Let's
yeah,
do 300 just
300.
Round it off. So right now we did 531. That $231,000 is now a discretionary fund for our board to put back into the community, and that's advertising and sales and magazines, and that is events, probably stuff that you would save money at doing if you asked us for stuff. We're talking about right now. We talked about the 30th anniversary and fireworks, kicking more money, that kind of stuff. So this money is going back into being used to promote businesses.
And Mike, we understand why we're having this conversation. We're just trying to get to what is a proposed number that then CROA can go back and have a discussion, and then we can come back together at the next CJC meeting and have a discussion again.
And it sounds like that's 300.
It sounds like that's 300.
Which comes out to about 12.9%, I believe.
Charles, you were going to say something?
Keep going. I'll in a second.
Okay, I appreciate that. We have something to talk about, which we haven't had for a few months. So at least we have something to start with. I think my opinion is that we need to come to the lower you want it to go, the more long-term it's got to be solidified so that things can be committed and planned and budgeted for. So if it ends up being 12 or 10 or whatever it ends up being, the lower that goes, the more it's got to be locked in from 15, which is a reasonable number. We also can go through and get more specific numbers here. I mean, we can have Lauren do, if it's not 25% for executive director and it's 23%, or we go through and more specific on each of these things, because I know this was not a fast exercise, but
I think she did a good job. She did a good job at it. I appreciate it. The thing is, we reverse engineered it and kind of did what you're talking about and kind of came up with some numbers, what we think we can do and what we think we could sell to our team and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of, we did a little bit of that,
And plus, if we're at 300 and your ask is 369, again, as Lee said, if we now have money that we can spend on behalf of the businesses, and you're doing the 30th anniversary of the town, and you ask Kanoa for $25,000, that's money that could come back to you that you don't have to pay. So as long as it's being shown that, hey, we're asking for $20,000, this is how it's going to benefit the community and the businesses, we can contribute to that. So even though it's 300,000, we'll give more than that.
Charles?
So my problem, and maybe I'm missed this as being the new guy, but I know when we talked about the marketing role, at least I think I mentioned KPIs, like what are going to be the indicators to know that this thing is succeeding, or is whatever. Are you looking to increase your Facebook volume by 10%, whatever? What I'm hearing is, I know we've worked through this and the calculations and everything, but have we actually like definitively looked at like if we sat down with someone for 8 hours a day and seen, are they truly putting the time into this for whatever, 2.5 hours, and what are they actually doing? And I don't know, and maybe I missed that. Is that, or is this just kind of arbitrary? Because that's where I get a little bit concerned with some of this stuff. Like, you start talking about something. Lauren, I don't know. How are you coming
So
up with
the new marketing person just started this Monday, so we're ramping them up.
But they're 100% Canoa.
They're 100% Canoa, yes. So, I mean, in terms of the KPIs, that discussion hasn't.
They're not
been
100% Canoa. They're CJC, right? They're working on the magazine, which is CJC magazine. So they should be, but they're not going to, we know, I mean, it's.
You're right.
It's right. I mean, it's, you know.
So I guess like the other thing too, I imagine, as I'm hearing this, with not wanting to codify this in the bylaws, right? You want to be able to revisit this every year. What are the success criteria for that? So let's say it's 300,000, and you want to be able to show your members 300,000 in value. Okay, cool, perfect. But it's not just marketing. It's not just that, right? It's technology. It's the newsletter. It's all that stuff. What does that look like? So that we don't.
You bring up a great question. I don't think we have that answer right now. We need to do that. I think between all of us and even Canoa, we are going to. I don't know if we discussed this. So this is new to you or not. Is Canoa means not much. We've already formed Visit Celebration. So and that's what we're going to call ourselves to most of the average world. And our job is going to be like a county or a city or a development arm, where a tourist arm is. We're going to say Visit Celebration, and that's going to be kind of our name, and we're going to kind of own that and have our own social media as well, help with that. And we want our social media person to help with events, to do stuff, and quite honestly, Charles, we have to do a better job on our end to define what we want to do. And we haven't done that yet, and we're going to. So I don't really know the answer, but we're not there yet.
Is that a separate social media person?
No, it's the person you have, let's say, right? We hope that your person,
You're just
our person that we're talking about can do this stuff, can be at for instance, the new Mexican restaurant opened up, whatever, should be there to do that, to do the list, to do this kind of stuff, to do things that I think would benefit, by the way, residents also. What's a discount for the residents, everything else. I think that things that we talked about when we originally hired this person, and then if we gave them some money, and not only just her, but your staff, we gave them money for advertisements, right? For radio stuff or whatever we're doing for the anniversary, for the 30th anniversary. We gave you stuff. We gave you some teeth to help with that. As long as it helps, as long as it's not a resident only event, maybe, right? That's really the only thing that we probably should say that we shouldn't participate in. But otherwise, I think there's anything that's going to benefit the businesses are going to probably help the residents, and vice versa, in my opinion. I mean, there's probably some.
But how do we know, like, the magazine? So, like, I'll give you an example. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor this, but like,
Yeah.
you put the magazine outside Walgreens, right? So how do we know that Croa, like, that thing's probably being to the benefit of Canoa 100%, I'd imagine. So that's the type of stuff I'm just saying. Like, how do we definitively?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's funny if you think it's more Canoa. We think it's opposite. I mean, most Canoa people have to pay. We have to pay average. So our Canoa members, if they wanted to even advertise it, they have to actually pay in that magazine, and it's a CJC magazine. So I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, we spoke to Celia yesterday. She's, at the hotel, the general manager of the hotel, or the assistant, or, she actually puts those magazines in the hotel. And she asked, can she get, can there be articles written? And we talked to her, but I agree. I mean, I think that this discussion of how marketing and sales and CJC works and with the marketing has to have a bigger discussion. And we're not the only ones. I mean, CROA has to participate, or the CJC has to participate and say, how do we make the magazine work for businesses and residents? And we're just trying to, just our participation is we just say, hey, can you write an article? Can there be some things with businesses in there to remind you that we're around? That's really been our time, on that. But otherwise, I can't tell you if it's successful or, I mean, I guess maybe, real estate agents can tell you that because they're probably the bulk of, some of that kind of stuff. So I don't
Well,
really
with
know.
social media, we can get analytics on social media of where people are, where people are
100%. 100%.
absorbing that
right.
information. Like,
Right.
so,
What we
okay, is
would
that
like-
some? Go ahead, Mike.
One of the things we would like is unfortunately, the majority of Celebration residents are getting their news from one of the porches on Facebook, back porch, front porch, side porch, whatever porch. And we would like the Visit Celebration social media channels, once established, to be that source of information that's putting information about grand openings and things like that, anniversary of businesses out there. That should be the primary source of information that for residents to find out about what's going on with the businesses. And that's one of the places we want to finally get to with this new person.
Sure. I mean, that sounds
For
great.
the record, yeah, and for the record, I agree with that, and I'll just say this, just being the new guy, I think we all have to work together. It sounds like everyone here is on the same page. Kanoa needs CROA, CROA needs Kanoa. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? Because we need a thriving downtown, a thriving Island Village business suite. We want people to visit businesses. We want people to engage with businesses. Obviously, those from outside the community, when they come, they potentially buy a home. So it's in everyone's best interest on this call to work together. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I appreciate all of this conversation and thanks for educating me on some of these topics.
So I'll bring this 12.9%. We'll discuss this at our workshop if we can add that to the CRO agenda and just come back with responses and feedback. I'm not sure exactly what will come back from that. And if you can do the same as far as thinking of data points or what the success looks like in the ROI for this. Because I think that's the biggest point here is what are we getting to support $300,000 and what's showing that that's happening for your members.
No, it's a good point. We have to, if we're going to say we're going to be a marketing arm and we're going to have money, we need to figure out what our plans are. That's for sure. And that actually makes staff, it gives them an opportunity to help with that because otherwise they're just reading our minds. So yeah, I agree.
And then we'll have some time between now and the next meeting for the new marketing person to get up to speed and start showing some value there. What is everyone's opinion on a next meeting? Is June? I mean, I know we normally meet quarterly and we just met last month. I don't know if we need to meet next month necessarily. Does anyone have an opinion or is June seem an appropriate time to come back together? I don't want to go too long so we don't have the cost sharing agreement sorted, but.
Please just don't do another 3 o'clock meeting. That's the only thing I'll ask.
So June will be when the finance committee will be fully engaged in discussing the CROA and CJC budget. So buttoning up a cost sharing agreement in the June, early July timeframe, it would be kind of crucial so we can kick off CROA budget workshops in August.
So then if we look at early June, okay, then we'll pick something and circulate a couple dates so we can do one of those polls that you do. Those are great. Anyone have any other comments?
No, I would just say June is, right now I'm, traveling wise. But if you put out a date, I'll try to be on and we'll see what we can do for sure. That especially these we could all be online anyway. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
Charles, what time works better? Because you said 3 o'clock is not great. Is it after or earlier?
I can make it work just during the work day. It's a bit brutal.
Yeah.
So,
well, there'll be hopefully we'll be short. Maybe we just keep it just a budget discussion if that's the most important thing to talk about.
Now that the water tower's done, that's all we're talking
Right,
about. Really.
Right. Exactly. We should be, and hopefully once we agree on this, it should be something that we don't have to even just, it should be, we're hoping that somebody comes and asks for money for stuff and that's what we hope. You know what I mean? We hope there's a good relationship where we can work together.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts?
Before we adjourn, can I introduce Ray?
Oh, yes.
So CJC board members, I want to introduce you to our new finance manager, Ray. He started on Wednesday, yeah, yesterday. So this is day 2 for him. So we're throwing him to the wolves early.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second.
All right, thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Bye.
Take care.